A child is kidnapped and murdered. The killer gets caught, but the sentence? It's nowhere near enough. His parents, Elise and Craig Landry, are shattered, but not helpless. They track him down, take him, and decide to make him suffer. But one single mistake turns their revenge into something they never saw coming. This is The Tortured, where justice twists into something unrecognizable. It all starts in this peaceful, sunlit neighborhood, just an ordinary place where life feels safe. Elise and Craig Landry live here with their 6-year-old son, Benjamin. Their life isn't anything out of the ordinary, and that's what makes it feel so real and so heartbreakingly vulnerable. Craig is a doctor, and Elise works in real estate. Their days are full, and their schedules rarely match, so they take turns watching their son, Benjamin. And Benjamin, he's the kind of kid who just grabs your heart, always full of energy, asking questions, lighting up every room. He's everything to them. One morning, Elise leaves early for work. Craig's home with Benjamin, and it's one of those warm, golden mornings. They head out to the yard to play ball, laughing and goofing off like any dad or son would. But then, Craig notices the sun. It's really starting to heat up, so he runs inside for just a second to grab some sunscreen. And you know what's terrifying? It's how normal everything seems, right until it isn't. Craig has no idea that just a few houses down, a man is sitting in a parked car, watching and waiting. He's been keeping his eyes on Benjamin this whole time, and as soon as Craig steps inside, the car starts moving, slowly, and right now, it's just meters away from Benjamin, who's playing without a clue. Meanwhile, Craig is inside, fumbling through a drawer of his wife's cosmetics, frustrated and confused. He can't find the lotion, and doesn't even have a clue that outside, his entire world is about to be ripped apart. And then it happens. In an instant, the car speeds off, and Benjamin is gone. Craig hears the noise and rushes to the front door, just in time to see the car speeding away. He runs after it, shouting for his son, but the car is too fast, and he can't keep up. So he runs back inside, jumps into his car, and takes off after it. In his panic and rush, Craig forgot the phone inside the house, the one thing he needed to call the police, and now he had no way to get help. Now there's only one thing on Craig's mind: find that car. He chases through streets, weaves through traffic, but it's chaos, and eventually he loses sight of the kidnapper's vehicle near an overpass. Craig, who was desperate to find his son, waved down every car he could see, hoping someone would stop and let him use their phone. After what felt like an eternity, a driver decided to help, and Craig quickly called 911 to report his son's kidnapping.
My son's been kidnapped. There was a guy in a pickup truck, a white rusted-out pickup truck with a camper shell in the back.
Back at home, Elise has just pulled into the driveway, expecting an ordinary afternoon, but instead, she's met with flashing lights, police officers, and reporters. She rushes inside and sees Craig. He stood pale and shaking, his eyes wide with guilt and terror as she turned to him, ready to ask what was going on. A detective asked her to sit down so that he could explain what had happened to Benjamin, and that's when it hit her. Elise breaks down, screaming and panicking. "Where is my son? I want him back," she screamed and cried. Hours passed with no ransom call, no note, nothing. That's when Elise starts thinking the unthinkable. What if this wasn't about money at all? What if this was the work of someone who just wanted to take a child? Someone who enjoys it? A predator? A psychopath?
What's going on? What's going on? Where is he?
Excuse me. I'm Detective Berger. I was talking to your husband about your son's kidnapping. Mrs. Landry, can we sit down and talk?
Where's my son? I want him back!
Meanwhile, in a cold basement, Benjamin is screaming for his parents, terrified and alone. The noise got to John Kozlowski, the kidnapper, and his irritation quickly turned to anger. He stormed down from the upper floor, eyes burning with rage, and screamed at the boy to shut up.
Shut up!
A little later, two officers, Patterson and Alvarez, arrived at John's house after neighbors reported hearing a child crying. John answered the door and claimed it was just him, said he was going through a rough time and was feeling depressed. But as they spoke, Alvarez spotted children's clothes inside the house, and that was enough to tell them something wasn't right. The officers asked for permission to search the house, but John refused. When he tried to block them, the officers pushed him, and they forced their way inside.
Good afternoon, sir.
Yes.
We received a report about someone crying in the basement.
I've been depressed lately. Haven't you ever felt like crying?
What's your name, sir?
Kozlowski. He's got kids' clothes inside.
I'm gonna say it one more time.
While searching, Patterson finds a hidden door to the basement. At first, it looked empty, just old furniture and dust. But then they spot bloodstains and tools covered in dried blood. Patterson opens one last door, and there's Benjamin. The sight stopped him cold, because it was already too late to save him. Back home, Elise gets a phone call, and she picks it up. When she answered, it was the officers on the line. Their voices heavy as they told her the worst. Benjamin is no more. The moment the news sank in, she collapsed to the floor, tears flooding her face as her world fell apart. She and Craig raced to the hospital, clinging to the hope that the boy who was found was not their son. But deep down, they knew the truth. Their world shattered in an instant, and all that was left was a burning need for justice, for Benjamin. John Kozlowski was already on the system's radar, a convicted sex offender out on parole, walking freely among families. After the verdict, Craig and Elise were unhappy because Kozlowski got only 25 years to life as the punishment for murder. It's the maximum, but to them, it was a joke. Elise couldn't take it. She begs Craig to help her get a gun to kill Kozlowski. Craig refused and said it won't fix anything. But Elise looks him in the eye and says, "We failed as parents. We have to do something for Benjamin." But the parents were totally helpless. Days passed, and their minds spiraled. Their marriage began to rot. They barely talked. And when they did, it was to argue over who was to blame. Eventually, Elise leaves to clear her head. Craig, who is all alone, falls into despair. One night, Craig sat in silence, a needle ready in his hand. He was done with life. But then, Benjamin's photo catches his eye. For a second, the memory of his son's laughter crashes over him. The thought of his son suddenly made him forget the idea of suicide. He realized he needed to do something else for his son. He rushed to find Elise, and he told her, "It's time. We should do what the courts didn't." The next day, at the hospital, Craig sneaks into an ambulance and steals some drugs. He knows what it will do. Also, Kozlowski is being moved to a high-security prison. Craig and Elise decided to follow the transport van. At a gas station, the prison van stops. One guard gets out to grab coffee. Elise follows him inside, calm but focused. She waits until he sets the tray of cups down on the counter and turns to pay. In that moment, she leans in and drops a vial of clear liquid into two of the cups. Craig walks in seconds later. He makes a scene at the register, yelling about change, drawing eyes away from Elise. The officer who got distracted grabs the tray and leaves. Half an hour later, the van slowed and pulled over. The guard stumbled out, looking sick and weak. Craig jumped into the driver's seat and sped away with the prisoner. Elise followed close behind. But then, a deer suddenly runs onto the road. The van crashed, and Craig got hurt, but he was still alive. The prisoner was unconscious. They dragged him out and disappeared into a house deep in the forest. When he woke up, he was chained. Craig told him that the drug would keep him awake, but not alive enough to die. And the torture begins. The next morning, Elise's phone rang. Detective Berger said Kozlowski had escaped. She hid her fear, acting shocked. That night, Craig pressed a lit cigarette to the prisoner's stomach, and by morning, he sealed the burn with a soldering iron, as Elise watched, disturbingly. Then, Craig injected a drug that caused violent spasms, desperate for answers. Suddenly, they heard footsteps upstairs. A man with a dog appeared, claiming the house belonged to someone named Frank. Elise stayed calm, posing as an agent, with Craig as a buyer. The man was convinced, and he left. Meanwhile, Berger inspected the crash site, and the truth was closing in. Back at his house, the prisoner claimed that he didn't remember the crime or his name. Elise suspected a lie, but Craig wasn't sure. They tried again, hurting him, demanding their son's name. Nothing. That night, Elise heard noise from the basement. The man was trying to escape. She grabbed a pipe and then knocked him out. When they dragged him back, he woke up and he fought hard, knocking Craig down the stairs. Police caught John nearby, but the shock came when the couple learned that the one they tortured wasn't Kozlowski. He was Patrick Galligan, who was jailed for tax fraud. Back at the house, Patrick's body was found hanging with a note that said he knew people hated him and maybe he deserved some pain, but not this much. He couldn't handle their torture. Craig and Elise were stunned. They had tortured the wrong man. The real killer who took their son was still out there, free inside prison, untouched by their revenge. The couple who wanted justice became killers. You expect revenge, closure, but the tortured gives you neither. Instead, it asks the harder question: what did you become in the name of justice? Craig and Elise walked away, but they didn't walk free. They carry that sin forever. What would you do if you found out that you had punished the wrong person? Let me know in the comments. Also, don't forget to subscribe for more stories like this, and check out our other videos. You'll love them.